So, rewind to my senior year of college. I was a pretty average dude, studying engineering, liked my video games, cheap beer, and hanging with my buddies. Nothing prepared me for Cassia. Not her real name, but it fits the whole vaguely ancient, vaguely dangerous vibe she had. We met at this underground music venue, one of those dimly lit places with sticky floors and surprisingly good bands. I was there with my roommate, Dave. Cassia was standing near the edge of the small crowd, not really watching the band, more like observing everyone. She had this striking look, super pale skin, long, almost unnaturally black hair, and these intense dark eyes that seemed to see right through you. She was wearing all black, of course, but not in a goth kid way. It was more like elegant, almost ritualistic. I was intrigued, maybe a little intimidated. Dave, being Dave, zero fear, talks to anyone, actually struck up a conversation with her between sets. I kind of hovered awkwardly. Cool place, huh? Dave started. Cassia just gave him a slow, considering look. It has an interesting confluence of energies tonight. Dave, to his credit, just rolled with it. Oh yeah? Good energies or bad energies? Neither, she said, her voice soft but carrying. Just potent. Then her eyes flicked to me. You're skeptical. It wasn't a question. I stammered. I guess I don't usually think about energies at a rock show. A tiny smile played on her lips. Most people don't. They just feel them, or are affected by them. Somehow, we ended up talking for the rest of the night. She was incredibly articulate, well-read, but all her knowledge was in these really obscure areas. Hermeticism, ancient mystery cults, astral projection, the properties of herbs and crystals I'd never heard of. I was a science guy, but I was also a 22-year-old guy completely captivated by this enigmatic woman. I figured she was just really into her niche hobbies. We started dating. The first few dates were different. Instead of movies or dinner, she'd suggest things like visiting old cemeteries at dusk. The veil is thinner there, you can feel the echoes. Or going to her apartment to align our chakras. Her place was something else. It was a small, older apartment, but she'd transformed it. Dark tapestries on the walls, shelves crammed with strange books, jars filled with dried herbs and murky liquids, sigils painted on small wooden discs, and the constant heavy scent of incense, sandalwood, dragon's blood, and something else, something sharp and metallic. I couldn't identify. She had a corner dedicated to what she called her altar, with black candles, a polished obsidian mirror, and a weird curved knife she called an athame. This is where I do my work, she'd explain, her eyes glowing with a strange fervor. What kind of work? I asked, trying to sound casual. Communicating, channeling, sometimes persuading. She'd leave it at that, letting the mystery hang in the air. I spent a lot of time at her place initially. It was like stepping into another world. Sometimes she'd meditate for hours, chanting in a language I didn't recognize, her voice rising and falling in hypnotic cadences. I'd just sit there, reading or pretending to study, feeling like an anthropologist, observing a rare tribe. One evening, she was doing a tarot reading for herself. I was watching, half curious, half amused. She laid out the cards, her brow furrowed. What's up? I asked. There's a shadow near you, Mark, she said, not looking at me, her gaze fixed on a particularly grim-looking card. The tower, I think. Something parasitic. It's drawn to your light, but it seeks to diminish it. Like a metaphorical shadow? Like stress from exams? I joked weakly. She finally looked up, and her eyes were serious, almost cold. No, not metaphorical. It's an entity, and it's aware that I'm aware of it. That genuinely creeped me out a little. Then I started spending nights at her place, or she at mine. My apartment was your typical student dive. Mismatched furniture, posters of bands, a general air of benign neglect. Cassia hated it. The energy here is stagnant, Mark, she'd say, wrinkling her nose as she walked in. It's like a swamp. Negativity festers in places like this. It's just messy, Cass, I'd reply. I'll do some laundry. It's more than mess, she insisted. There are attachments here. Old miseries clinging to the walls. Soon she started cleansing my apartment. This involved her walking through every room with a smoking bundle of sage, muttering incantations, and occasionally ringing a small discordant bell. The smell was overpowering. This will drive out the lower vibrations, she explained, but we'll need to do it regularly. Your skepticism creates openings for them to return. So, my skepticism was the problem. Got it. Things started getting weirder. We'd be watching TV at my place, and a book would suddenly slide off a bookshelf across the room. Did you see that? Cassia would whisper, grabbing my arm. It's testing us. The shelf was probably uneven, I'd say, my heart thumping a bit faster than I liked. Another time, we were in my kitchen. I reached for a glass from the cupboard, and as my fingers brushed it, it shattered. Just exploded into pieces. Damn cheap glass, I muttered, going for a broom. Cassia was pale. No, Mark. That was a warning. It's getting stronger. It doesn't like my presence here. It doesn't like me protecting you. Protecting me from what, exactly? From them, she'd say, her eyes wide and earnest. The things that linger in the shadows, that feed on fear and despair. You're a beacon, Mark, whether you realize it or not. You have a bright spirit. They're drawn to that. The living together part wasn't official. We didn't sign a lease together, but she was at my place 5-6 nights a week. She brought over more of her stuff, more weird-smelling candles, little carvings, a small bag of what she called protective herbs that she sprinkled under my bed. My apartment started to smell like hers. It started to feel like hers. She'd often wake me up in the middle of the night. Mark, Mark, wake up, she'd hiss, shaking me. What is it? I'd be disoriented, heart pounding. Listen. And I'd listen. Sometimes it was the floorboards creaking in the old building. Sometimes it was the wind, but she'd interpret it. That's not the wind, that's a whisper. Can't you hear it? They're trying to communicate. Or that's not the building settling. That's footsteps. It's pacing outside the door. I'd lie there, rigid with a mixture of fear and annoyance, trying to convince myself it was nothing, while she painted these terrifying scenarios. Sleep became a precious, rare commodity. One night she decided we needed to perform a binding ritual in my bedroom. To shield this space, she said, to make it a sanctuary. This involved drawing a large, complicated symbol on the floor with white chalk, which she produced from her ever-present bag of mystical supplies, lighting black candles at specific points, and us sitting in the middle, holding hands, while she chanted. Her chanting got louder, more intense. The room felt colder. I swear the candle flames flickered in unison at one point, even though there was no draft. Repeat after me, she commanded, and started uttering these strange, guttural phrases. Cass, I don't know about this, I said, my voice shaky. Her grip on my hands tightened, almost painfully. Don't break the circle, Mark. Your doubt can shatter the protection. You must believe. Her eyes were wild. I was genuinely scared of her in that moment. I mumbled along with whatever she was saying, just wanting it to be over. The psychological toll was immense. I was constantly on edge. Every shadow looked like a figure. Every unexplained noise was a potential threat. I was jumpy, irritable, exhausted. Dave pulled me aside one day. Dude, you look like death warmed over, he said, concerned. And you've bailed on us 3 times this week. Is everything okay with you and Cassia? I tried to explain. She thinks my apartment is haunted, man. Or that I am. She's always doing these rituals, talking about entities. Dave just stared. Mark, that's not normal. Is she, like, okay in the head? Or is she messing with you? I don't know, man. I almost shouted, feeling a wave of desperation. Sometimes I think she believes it. Other times, I don't know what to think. But it's freaking me out. You need to get some distance, bro, he said. This sounds toxic. The absolute breaking point, the moment I knew I had to get out, was particularly terrifying. We were asleep in my bed. I woke up suddenly, around 3 a.m., with that horrible feeling of being watched. The room was pitch black, but I felt a pressure in the air, a suffocating coldness. I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis. I prayed. But then I heard it, a soft, raspy breathing, and it wasn't Cassia's. It sounded like it was coming from the foot of the bed. My eyes, straining in the dark, picked out a shape. Taller than a person, unnaturally thin, just a deeper black against the black of the room. It seemed to sway slightly. I wanted to scream, to bolt, but I was frozen solid, a purely animal terror gripping me. Then Cassia stirred beside me. She sat bolt upright. It's here, she whispered, her voice eerily calm. I can feel its hunger. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the spot where I saw the shape. The shape seemed to recoil slightly. then slowly faded. The coldness lessened. The breathing stopped. I finally managed to gasp for air, drenched in sweat, shaking violently. Cassia turned to me, and in the faint light from the street filtering through the blinds, I saw her expression. It wasn't fear, it wasn't concern for me. It was exhilaration, a strange, triumphant gleam in her eyes.
You saw it, didn't you, Mark? She said, her voice almost breathless. Now you understand, now you believe.
That was it. The terror was still there, but something snapped. Her reaction, it wasn't the reaction of someone trying to protect me. It was the reaction of someone who had achieved a goal, who was validated by my abject fear. Whether the entity was real, a hallucination born of stress and suggestion, or something she somehow faked, her enjoyment of it was the most horrifying part. The next day I felt like a zombie. I went to class, but I couldn't concentrate. The image of that figure, the sound of that breathing, Cassia's face, it was all branded into my mind. I knew what I had to do. I waited until she was out at one of her herb gathering trips. Don't ask. I packed a small bag. I called Dave. "Can I crash at your place for a bit?" I asked, my voice hollow.
Dude, of course. What happened?
"I'll tell you when I get there. It's bad." Breaking up with her was an ordeal. I met her at a neutral, very public coffee shop on campus a couple of days later. "Cassia," I started, my hands shaking so much I had to clench them in my lap. "I can't do this anymore. This life. It's not for me. I'm constantly scared. I'm not sleeping. I think we need to break up." She just sipped her herbal tea, looking at me with that unnervingly calm expression. "So you're choosing fear over understanding," she said softly. "You're letting it win. It's driven a wedge between us, just as I predicted." "No, this is driving a wedge," I said, my voice rising a little. The rituals, the constant talk of entities. I can't live like that, Cass. I feel like I'm losing my mind." "You're not losing your mind, Mark," she said, a hint of pity in her voice. "You're just closing it. You had a glimpse of what's beyond the veil, and you recoiled. That's a shame." She paused. "But be warned, now that you've acknowledged its presence, and now that you're pushing away my protection, it will likely redouble its efforts." It was a threat, a veiled, spooky threat, but a threat nonetheless. "I'll take my chances," I said, standing up. "Goodbye, Cassia." I walked out without looking back, feeling a bizarre mixture of terror and profound relief. The first few weeks were hell. I stayed with Dave. I barely slept. Every creak in his apartment made me jump. I kept seeing shadows out of the corner of my eye. I was convinced Cassia had cursed me, or that the entity had followed me. Dave was a rock, constantly reassuring me, making me watch dumb comedies, dragging me out. Slowly, ever so slowly, as the distance grew between me and Cassia, the fear began to subside. I eventually moved back into my own apartment, after Dave helped me decalcify it, throwing out every last trace of her influence, and saging the place himself, ironically. And guess what? No more falling books, no more shattering glasses, no more midnight whispers or shadowy figures. My apartment went back to being just a slightly messy, perfectly normal student dive. Looking back, I still don't know what to make of it all. Was Cassia genuinely communing with spirits? Was she mentally ill? Was she an incredibly skilled manipulator who got her kicks from terrifying people? Or a combination of all three? Did she somehow stage some of those things? The book, the glass, the breathing? I'll probably never know for sure. What I do know is that she created an environment of intense psychological pressure and fear, and she seemed to thrive on it. It was a masterclass in gaslighting. She systematically dismantled my sense of reality and made me doubt my own sanity. It took months to feel truly normal again. That relationship, short as it was, left a deep scar. It taught me that intriguing can quickly become dangerous, and that if someone's beliefs start to encroach on your peace of mind and safety, you need to run, not walk in the other direction. TLDR, dated a girl 21F who was heavily into dark occult practices. She convinced me 22 my apartment and I were targets for malevolent entities. Constant rituals, late-night visitations, and an atmosphere of terror became our norm. Mostly at my place, as she spent most nights there, culminated in me seeing a shadowy figure and her seeming thrilled by my fear. Broke up after 2 months of this psychological horror show. All paranormal activity magically ceased once she was gone. She was either truly connected to something dark, seriously delusional, or a terrifyingly good gaslighter. Still gives me chills. Next story. Alright, so let me set the scene. My boyfriend, let's call him Alex, and I had been together for a solid 2 years. We were good, like comfortable, happy, talking about future stuff, without it being weird. My best friend, let's call her Jenna, had known me since middle school. We were those friends, knew everything about each other, finished each other's sentences, the whole 9 yards. Or so I thought. Jenna and Alex got along fine. Not super close, but friendly, like you'd expect your BF and bestie to be. So last July, my family planned this big 2-week trip to Italy. It was a huge deal, my grandparents' 50th anniversary. I was super excited, but also a little bummed to leave Alex for that long. We'd never been apart for more than a few days. The day before I left, Alex, Jenna, and I grabbed a casual dinner. Gonna miss you like crazy, Alex said, squeezing my hand under the table. Ah, you guys are cute, Jenna cooed. Don't worry, Alex. I'll keep an eye on your girl's apartment and make sure no rogue spiders invade, or I'll just hang out with you so you don't get too lonely. She winked. It sounded like a joke. A totally normal, friendly joke. I laughed. Yeah, Alex, try not to replace me with Jenna in 2 weeks, okay? We all chuckled. God, I was so naive. The first few days in Italy were amazing. Florence, the art, the food, incredible. I was texting Alex constantly, sending him pictures, FaceTiming when the time difference allowed. He was responsive, sweet, said he missed me, the usual. Jenna was also texting me, asking about the trip, sending me funny memes. Everything seemed normal. Around day 5, I noticed a slight shift. Alex's texts became a little shorter. When we FaceTimed, he seemed a bit distracted. Everything okay? I asked one evening, trying to show him the sunset over the Tuscan hills. Yeah, just tired, he said, yawning. Long day at work. Jenna actually swung by earlier, brought pizza. That was cool of her. Oh, nice, I said. A tiny, almost imperceptible knot forming in my stomach. Good she's keeping you company, but why did it feel weird? I brushed it off. I was probably just tired and homesick. Then a couple of days later, Jenna posted an Instagram story. It was a boomerang of her and someone clinking beer bottles. The hand holding the other bottle had a very familiar watch on its wrist. Alex's watch. The background looked suspiciously like the bar Alex, and I frequented near his place. My heart did a weird flutter. Huh, I thought. They're hanging out? Okay. I texted Jenna, looks like fun, you guys at the local? Her reply came back super quick. OMG, yes, just ran into Alex. So random, we were just catching up. Miss you tons. Italy looks amazing. Ran into him? It felt rehearsed. But again, what was I gonna say? Accuse her of something based on an Instagram story and a slightly too enthusiastic text. I told myself I was being ridiculous, jet-lagged, and paranoid. But the knot in my stomach tightened. I started checking Jenna's social media more often, and Alex's. Alex wasn't a big poster, but Jenna was suddenly posting a lot more group shots, and Alex just happened to be in several of them. Group hang with the work crew, and look who tagged along, with Alex smiling awkwardly in the background. Another one was a picture of a board game night, captioned, teaching these noobs how to play Catan. So fun. Alex's arm was visible in the corner. My texts with Alex became more strained, at least on my end. Me, hey, how was your day? Seen any good movies lately? Alex, good, nah, just chillin'. Jenna came over, we watched that new Netflix thing. Me, oh, you guys are hanging out a lot. Trying to sound casual, but my fingers were trembling. Alex? Yeah, she's cool, just bored I guess with you gone. With me gone. The words echoed in my head. The paranoia started to really set in. I wasn't enjoying Italy as much. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart would leap, hoping it was Alex with a long, sweet message, but dreading it might be another social media notification featuring him and Jenna. I'd lie awake in my hotel room, the beautiful Italian night outside seeming to mock me, replaying conversations, scrutinizing texts. Was I making this up? Was I being the crazy, jealous girlfriend from afar? My mom even noticed. Honey, you seem a million miles away, she said one morning at breakfast. Is everything all right with Alex? Yeah, Mom. Fine, I mumbled, pushing my cornetto around my plate. Just miss him, I couldn't bring myself to voice my fears. They sounded so insane when I thought about saying them out loud. My best friend is hanging out with my boyfriend too much, and I think she's trying to steal him. Yeah, psycho alert. The real kicker came about 10 days into my trip. I was in Rome, trying to appreciate the Colosseum, but my mind was elsewhere. I hadn't heard much from Alex all day, which was unusual, even with the time difference. I called him. No answer. Called again an hour later. Straight to voicemail. Panic started to claw at my throat. I texted Jenna. Hey, have you heard from Alex? He's not answering his phone. Kinda worried. No reply for a good 2 hours. Then a text from her. Oh hey, sorry just saw this. Yeah, he's fine. We were just grabbing a bite. His phone died lol. He says hi and he'll call you later. We were just grabbing a bite. His phone died. It all sounded so convenient. My hands were shaking. I opened Instagram, almost compulsively. And there it was, a new post from one of Jenna's more peripheral friends. Someone I barely knew. A group photo from what was clearly a late-night hangout, judging by the lighting and the drinks. And there in the middle of the group were Jenna and Alex. Jenna was leaning into him, her head almost on his shoulder, laughing. Alex had his arm slung casually around the back of her chair, not quite touching her, but almost. They looked comfortable. Too comfortable. The caption was something innocuous, like great night with great peeps, but the picture screamed volumes to me. I felt like I was going to throw up. The ancient stones of the Colosseum seemed to spin around me. This wasn't running into each other. This wasn't keeping him company. This was something else. I immediately tried calling Alex again. Voicemail. I texted him, my thumbs flying furiously. Alex, I just saw a picture. You, Jenna, late night. What the hell is going on? You told me your phone was dead and you were just grabbing a quick bite with her. Call me now. The three little dots appeared. He was typing. Then they disappeared. Then they reappeared. Finally a text. Babe, calm down. It's not what it looks like. Yeah, we hung out with some people. My phone did die for a bit. You're overreacting. Overreacting? I was thousands of miles away, and my boyfriend and my best friend were clearly getting way too cozy, and I was overreacting? The anger was swift and hot, momentarily eclipsing the crushing hurt. Overreacting? I typed back. You've been spending almost every day with her. She's in all your stories. You're in hers. You barely talk to me anymore. And when you do, you're tired or distracted. And now this? How stupid do you think I am? The next few hours were a blur of frantic, increasingly hostile text between Alex and me. He kept insisting I was being jealous and paranoid, that Jenna was just a friend, and going through some stuff, and he was being supportive. Supportive by letting her practically sit in your lap while I'm gone? I shot back. His defense was weak, full of cliches like you're twisting things, and you don't trust me. Then I called Jenna. She answered on the second ring, her voice syrupy sweet. Hey girl, what's up? Everything okay with you and Alex? He seemed a little stressed when I left. The audacity. I almost choked. Jenna, what the actual fuck are you doing? I managed to hiss. Whoa, what's wrong? She asked, feigning innocence. Did Alex say something? Honestly, he's been a bit mopey since you left. I've just been trying to cheer him up, you know. Be a good friend to both of you.
A good friend?
I was practically shouting into the phone, my family probably hearing me from the next room. A good friend doesn't hang all over someone else's boyfriend the second their back is turned. I saw the pictures, Jenna. I'm not an idiot. Her tone shifted. The sweetness evaporated, replaced by a cold defensiveness. Wow, Sarah. I can't believe you're accusing me of something like that. Alex is my friend too. Are we not allowed to hang out? You're seriously that insecure. Maybe you're the problem in your relationship if you're this paranoid. Gaslighting level expert. I felt like my brain was short-circuiting. Was I crazy? Was this normal behavior that my anxiety was blowing out of proportion? This isn't about insecurity, Jenna, I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tears welling up. This is about respect, and you have shown me zero. Whatever, Sarah, she scoffed. I'm done with this. Have a nice trip. And she hung up. The last 4 days of my vacation were a living hell. I was a wreck. I cried constantly. I barely ate. My family tried to comfort me, but what could they say? They saw how devastated I was. Alex and I had a few more strained, awful conversations, where he continued to minimize everything and make me feel like the crazy one. You're letting this ruin your trip, Sarah, he said during one call. his voice devoid of any real sympathy. It's not a big deal. When you get back, we'll talk, and you'll see everything is fine. But I knew it wasn't fine. The trust was shattered, not just with him but with Jenna, my best friend. How could she? Flying home, I felt a heavy sense of dread. What was I walking into? Alex picked me up from the airport. He tried to hug me, but I was stiff as a board. The car ride was excruciatingly silent. When we got to my apartment, I just couldn't hold it in anymore. We need to talk, Alex. For real this time. No more bullshit. We sat on my couch, the souvenirs I'd bought still in their bags on the floor, forgotten. I laid it all out, my hurt, my feelings of betrayal, the evidence that this was more than just friends. He finally started to crack. He admitted that yes, they had been spending a lot of time together, that maybe Jenna had been a little flirty, that maybe he hadn't shut it down as firmly as he should have, because he didn't want to make it awkward or hurt her feelings since she was going through stuff. Hurt her feelings? I stared at him, incredulous. What about mine, Alex? I was your girlfriend, thousands of miles away, trusting you. He didn't have a good answer. He just kept saying he was sorry, that it didn't mean anything, that he made a mistake letting it get that far. But the damage was done. How could I ever trust him again? And Jenna, the thought of her made me sick. I told Alex I needed space. He moved his stuff out of my apartment. He'd been staying there more often than not. A few days later, it was heartbreaking, watching him pack. 2 years just gone. Because of this. As for Jenna, I sent her one last text. I know exactly what you were doing. You're not the friend I thought you were. I don't ever want to see or speak to you again. She replied with a single chilling text. His loss. That winky face. It confirmed everything. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't misunderstood. She was a snake. It's been months now. Breaking up with Alex was awful. But honestly, losing Jenna, or rather realizing the Jenna I knew didn't exist, hurt almost as much. The paranoia I felt on that trip wasn't paranoia. It was my gut screaming at me, and I was trying to silence it. I've learned a lot about trusting my instincts, and about who my real friends are. It's a hard lesson, and I wouldn't wish that kind of emotional roller coaster on anyone. Italy is beautiful, but man, that trip is tainted with some ugly memories. TLDR went on a 2-week family vacation to Italy. While I was gone, my now ex-best friend made serious moves on my now ex-boyfriend. They hung out constantly. He became distant, and I was gaslit into thinking I was crazy and paranoid for being suspicious. Got home, confronted them, and the truth and her true colors came out. Lost a boyfriend and a best friend in one go. Trust your gut, people.